The First Amendment states the freedom of speech and of the press.
You have folks who legitimately are out there to try to confuse people and create confusion.
But what happens when people use that freedom the wrong way?
They're trying to keep their numbers up, trying to keep their ratings up, and I think that can jeopardize journalism.
Sir, since you're attacking us,
you are fake news.
The justice of journalism, or the menace of media? This is In News We Trust. Trust in the news is changing. Stories come out every day with false information, with facts that have been twisted. The relationship that the journalists had with the people has been stretched thin.
The number of news outlets that have their own agendas politically is climbing, and they often present information in a way that sways the true nature of a story. Relying on only one source of information can be dangerous, and only furthers the political polarity, splitting the people apart.
Staying informed as a voter is essential for a democracy to function. The ability to read, interpret, and make an educated decision based on the information you receive stops our government from falling into chaos, and that's where the news comes into play.
Although the news is meant to report on politics, it has become a category of politics itself. The issue is that journalists all around America are either spreading false information unknowingly or purposely planting false information in the news.
Both scenarios abandon the journalistic integrity, which can be summed up as the duty to spread facts as accurately and fairly as possible. All of this combined is what has spawned the desperately low trust in news.
Whether it's your local station or one a million miles away, news is everywhere, and many people have different feelings on trusting local and national news and knowing the differences between the two.
National media has a pretty large scope that it covers. It's going to cover things of, national importance, but also it will highlight local news stories that it thinks would catch the interest of the entire population. Local media is very invested in covering local stories, and that's extremely important because they serve as watchdogs on local governments, on municipalities that often nobody else is paying attention to.
Your local on-air personality comes into your home every day, several times a day. Not only that, you see them out shopping. You know their kids. You go to school with their kids. You identify with them as an individual.
Americans have come to rely on these news services, but recently, according to a Pew Research poll, things are changing. According to a study done by Pew Research Center back in 2016, only 22% of people said that they trusted the local media a lot. National news organizations, on the other hand, only had 18% of people say that they trusted it a lot. Social media, the number is drastically different, with only 4% of people saying that they trusted their news from social media a lot.
More changes occurred between the years 2016 and 2017, which coincided with the heavy media coverage of the 2016 presidential election.
And here's how it breaks down by party. In 2016, 15% of Republicans said that they trusted the national news, but in 2017, that number dropped to 11%. On the other hand, in 2016, 27% of Democrats said that they trusted national news, and in 2017, that number went up to 34%. Now let's take a look at local news. In 2016, 23% of Republicans said that they trusted local news, and in 2017, that number went up by only 1%. Democrats had a big jump for their trust in news. In 2016, 29% said that they trusted local news, but in 2017, that number went up to 36%. Social media had the lowest numbers of all, with both parties' trust levels coming in at just under 6% for before and after 2017. All across the charts, it appears that the American people trust their local news outlets significantly more than their national news outlets. Through the data presented, it's clear that Republicans are trusting media less and Democrats are trusting the media more.
There are thousands of news outlets across the United States, and there is something that many of them have in common. A large number of them are owned by the same gigantic companies. While the number of different owners is shrinking, so is the variety of opinions. DTV's Rebecca Allen shows us this alarming trend in media ownership.
Today, many Americans have the access to multiple news outlets, from television, radio, and even social media pages, to find the inside scoop on an array of topics. However, recent ownership laws have changed what the people are seeing, what they're hearing, and ultimately, how they trust. In the fall of 2017, the Federal Communications Commission eliminated media ownership laws that Chairman Ajit Pai claimed were decades old. The relaxing of media ownership has been underway since 1996. Though the change has been surging, recently it has sparked a ton of debate, and now consumers of media are worried that media diversity is ceasing. According to a recent study done by the Morris Creative Group and Frugal-Dad, 41% of Americans trust local media stations, above the 27% that claim they'd rather get their information from national stations. This 41% may not know that large broadcasting superpowers are taking over local media. As of 2013, Sinclair owns 161 stations in 78 different markets. Nexstar owns 51 stations in 45 markets. Tribune owns 44 stations in 35 markets. And Gannett owns 41 stations in 31 markets. These 4 companies are still increasing business steadily. Your favorite national media sources are not immune to the growing monopoly either. 90% of channels on your television are owned by the same 6 companies: GE, Disney, Viacom, News Corp, Time Warner, and CBS. Just 28 years ago, in 1983, the same 90% was owned by 50 companies. The Big Six's total 2010 revenue was $275.9 billion. That's enough to buy each NFL football team roughly 12 times. The media has an influence in our everyday lives, even when you don't tune in to the 6 o'clock news. And with only 231 media executives controlling the diet of information that millions of Americans digest, it isn't as diverse as you may think.
Shrinking ownership is placing stress on the trust between journalists, owners, and consumers. Sinclair Broadcasting is a prime example of how the decline in ownership can affect how viewers take in the media, and it often raises the question, can this change be both good and bad for the world of journalism? DTV's Bailey Talaska explains the effect ownership can have on local news.
Joel Fike, a reporter and anchor for WEYI, has witnessed firsthand the impact a change in ownership can have on a station.
We were the laughing stock at one point in this market. We really were. I mean, we were terrible third in the ratings, didn't have the equipment, didn't have the facilities. It was awful. And we've been purchased by Sinclair, and they pretty much literally came in here, the chairman of Sinclair over in the other station, and said, we're going to get you out of here and we're going to give you everything you need. And they have.
Sinclair Broadcasting, a media company that owns almost 200 local stations and counting, soon emerged a Tribune, making them the biggest media company in the U.S. Even with Sinclair owning all of these stations, it doesn't look like it affects anything from an outside perspective. And for the most part, the local reporter is not affected by Sinclair ownership.
Absolutely never, never has my boss come to me and said, Fike, you know what? I want you to take this angle with it. Never.
But Sinclair does make each of their stations air what are called must-runs. These are programs that the local stations must fit into their newscasts. Most of these programs are biased and project the viewpoint of Sinclair.
It's the viewpoint of the company. It really doesn't impact me. You know, all I can really focus on is what Joel Fike is going out to report on. They're there, they're part of it. It's part of the equation. There's nothing I can do about it.
To combat this, stations have been airing the must-runs late at night when there are less people watching.
It's going to be difficult to get Democrats on board here.
Recently, with all the attacks accusing journalists of fake news, Sinclair made a promo to show that their stations do not support fake news. DTV interviewed members of WEYI before this promo had been released. Sinclair handed down a script and told local anchors and reporters to record it as is.
But we are concerned about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish
these same fake stories without checking facts first.
This promo was a clear example of media ownership telling news people what to do. Another issue with ownership is state-funded media. An example would be Sputnik Radio, a radio station owned by the Russian government.
The Hurricane Maria aftermath.
So our connection is really principally organizational, right? Like they set up the company, they fund the company, they helped us get this together. Outside of that, we have almost no connection.
Eugene Puryear, radio host of the show By Any Means Necessary, says that Russia does not have any influence on what they can and cannot say.